Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we dive into those sticky, uncomfortable conversations that we face, but nobody really likes to talk about. I'm your host, Mel Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group. Today's conversation is with Josh Britt. You'll hear more about his background throughout the episode, but what really stands out is his eclectic background in corporate finance, small business, and people management, and especially his take on those awkward financial conversations that keep business owners up at night. In this conversation, we cover a whole range of topics, including why financial conversations are so often uncomfortable and how awkward can be a sign we're making progress, the intersection between people issues and money issues, and that's where the maximum awkwardness lives, practical ways to start uncomfortable conversations about goals, hiring, performance, and money with less shame and more impact, how leaders and parents can teach the next generation to talk openly about finances, and lastly, why honesty, self-awareness, and asking for help are the key to both personal and business success. So let's get to it. Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems. Today, my guest is Joshua Britt, someone who I have known, oh my God, like 25 years or something ridiculous, Josh.
Long time.
We went to Texas A&M together. Whoop!
Yeah. Especially now. Right now, it's a real fun time to say whoop. Yes.
Yeah. So our topic today is the need for awkward financial conversations. And if you know anything about me, I really love sessions that involve awkward conversations, hard conversations, maybe some tears, because that's when we're really making progress. So when Josh proposed this topic to me, I was like, hell yes, I'm in. Let's go down this path. So Josh, I know you've done so much work both in corporate America finance, small business finance, valuations. Tell us a little bit about the path that you're on today and where you're focusing your energy.
Absolutely. Yes, I want to use the word eclectic when talking about my past experience and resume. I had just a lot of wonderful opportunities growing up, especially as a young person, to do physical labor, and was very lucky that I identified that that was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So early on at school, I got to earn my finance degree at Texas State and worked full time at HEB, which is a wonderful Texas company um, here that I still am very, very loyal to. And it just taught me a lot of things about people, and it transferred over into our management program so well at Texas A&M. And that MBA program, it was almost like it reinforced a lot of those things that you saw. I was lucky enough to be a manager and to see people and watch people from a different angle. And then going through corporate America, I hired on with ExxonMobil right out of school from Texas A&M because I wanted to go all over the world, and I wanted to drag my family around and have those opportunities. And for 15 years, I got to meet people from everywhere. I had a friend in Moscow, Dimitri. I had a friend in Qatar, a friend in Australia, and a friend in Papua New Guinea, and just was tremendously fortunate in that I was able to move positions almost every 18 months to see different business lines, but at a very high level. So the management reviews every month for Asia Pacific or Middle East Russia required an intimate knowledge and working with 250 people across 5 different time zones. And it exposes you to the fact that, all right, you have to understand that South America and people in South America that you work with, that's 15 minutes that you're going to spend on the phone before you start and ask a question, or you're going to go nowhere. And understanding how you're viewed in the rest of the world and how the rest of the world has expectations of you changes, and it opens your eyes to a lot of different things. So I took all of that. I got to the very end of what I could tolerate at ExxonMobil. Looking at myself in the mirror, I tell my sons that it is really difficult to shave without looking at yourself in the mirror. And that is my threshold for where I want to work and who I want to work with. And I took that and thought, what do I do next? What can I do? I'm a single dad full time. So it had to be something that was flexible, and it had to be something that I could not only meet the demands now, but in the future and where I wanted to do, because that was when I looked at myself, what do I want to be? I want to be a good dad. And the rest of this, I'll take what I'm good at and I'll apply it. And Lo and behold, I thought at first I'd be an expert witness. Really, I thought I'd go
I
just like
remember this
Dr.
chapter.
Johnson from Texas A&M, and I was like, man, I live in this industrial area. There is nothing but married couples that fully own these large third parties that support industrial. We're talking about 3,000 employees at different times and 10, $20 million in revenues a year. And they just have simple accounting. And I'm going to dinner and I'm hearing all these stories and they're getting a divorce and it's 5 years and it's five valuations and nobody understands what's what. And I just kind of looked at it and I was like, I could do that. And that's easy. Well, I know that. I'll do that all the time. And I started asking around. And before you knew it, someone gave me the term fractional and I'd never heard it before. And that's where this all took off. Fractional CFO. And the more I asked, the more people I met, the more I knew this is what I needed to be and where I needed to go. And I have loved it. The first outreach, again, you go back, you start back at square one. I started with Texas A&M contacts. And honestly, because of that relationship and the fact that the alumni group like is so great. Just answered phone calls. And I got just one question after another answered, very luckily. And then I built relationships from that. I have a network now that I work with of 8 to 10 people at a time that I can reach out to and answer any question that comes up. And it goes into a level of confidence that I have now from a corporate level. You can be the largest corporation in the world, or you can be a startup, and I can answer every question, or I can get it answered. And that's the confidence level. Oh, I love, we'll use a sports analogy. It was SGA last night, I think, in 127 consecutive games. He says, now at this point, he said, I know I have the answers to the test. I'm just waiting for the questions. And I was like, wow, that's exactly right. That's exactly what it feels like sitting at this point with this level of experience. So now I want to help. And that's what I like to do. I like to talk to people. I want to be that person that walks in and helps you sleep at night, because every small business owner knows there's something they don't know. And there is something that keeps them up. And in a lot of times, I'd say the vast majority of times, it's the area that I just so happen to be good at. And that's finance and accounting. That is HR. That is audits. That is anything you want to talk about with controls or tax. I want to say optimization or P&L cleanup. It is all tied together, and it is all tied into people. If you organize yourself correctly and efficiently from the beginning, or if you accept that you need help and you need step changes as you go along, start over. And that's what happens. That's the awkward part. No one wants you to come in and tell them what they don't know, because they're most of the time you're type A personality and you've been successful or you plan to be. And it's hard to admit. And that's
it's like they want it, but they don't want it. And
yes, that is so true.
So I'm going to pause you a second before you jump in, because I want to kind of target this down a couple avenues. If you're tuning in because you know Josh and you don't know me, my name's Mel Ortiz, and my jam is what makes people tick. How do we get them in the right seats, in the right organizations, from an aptitude perspective? How do we make sure they're engaged and contributing at high levels? And how do we make sure they're crystal clear on what you expect from them? Because especially if we get into the small and mid-sized business space, often the owners and the managers aren't crystal clear on what it takes to win at work. So no surprise when employees aren't crystal clear on that. So people is my jam. And when we put the people and the money together, that's where Josh and I have lots of fun, interesting conversations. Yes. So when you pitched the idea of these awkward conversations around finances, I went, oh, this is going to be good. So give me a few examples of some of the more awkward conversations that are really pivotal for the benefit of individuals, of businesses, and our ability to serve our clients.
Oh, sure.
What comes to mind? Give me a little laundry list, and then we can start picking away at a couple of them.
Oh, perfect. The number one thing of walking in is I want to walk in and I have set checklists and questionnaires, really. And I have a decision tree. You answer this or this, and it kind of goes down. But inevitably, as a part of that, one question that sticks out: what are your goals? What do you hope to get out of this? And for successful people and a lot of small businesses, that is the hardest thing for them to answer. And you get almost always a defensive answer because they're like, oh, I should know that. And ooh, I should have that already. And a lot of times it's just more. I just want to be successful. I just want to have more. And that's one of those tick boxes that you can start. Okay, let's define what
What
you
more
really
looks like.
want. And you
Yeah.
watch people be like, oh, wow, I never really thought of this. And it's uncomfortable. Well, how much money do you really want to make? Well, I don't want to focus on really. See, you don't want just more. And it's getting people to admit to those things. The second one is exactly this. What what is it is honestly, what's your hiring process for your accounting group? And what I'm trying to get out of in that awkward, well, that's what we call the back office work. That'll be an answer a lot of times. Okay, well, how did you go about hiring this person? How did you go about setting? And I'm asking those questions because it's to highlight to them in operations, you were in detail. Like, that welder that you just hired, you needed three references for. And, like you're still skeptical and going to call the guy back if this guy doesn't work out. But the person who handles your bookings every single month, you don't even know her last name. And that's like, and that becomes a dance. It becomes, no, you're not any different than a lot of people, right? This is exactly why I exist. This is exactly why I'm here. And understanding that just because certain things are done doesn't mean they're done, right? So a lot I get it a lot. Hey, did you so have you filed for your LLC and done it? Oh yeah, that this is done. I understand that you sent an email, right? But that is not, so
Make
that
it
awkward
fully
part of
completed.
understand these are all things that I have found in each step that people are just uncomfortable with. It becomes almost like it feels like a personal attack. And so I've tried to come up with strategies to just preempt it. Hey, look, I know I'm going to find this because I find it 100% of the time. Hey, look, I'm going to show you that I can save you this in this area, in this area, in this area, because I know you're having that problem. And it is not, I don't want to use, it has become a part of doing this in the fractional space. You wonder if you're on the right path. But the more conversations I have, the more I know. And then it becomes a people. Okay, I get it. You went through this process, but that's not going to be good enough. And that is really a lot of times where a lot of people kind of like they shy away from. If you can remember in school, we had a program where they brought in, I don't, what was that, like 30 different managers from across different industries. And they had to teach everybody. They wanted to teach everybody a scenario of firing someone. And if you remember all the dramatic things that went through that, when you, it was, if I could recall, I
Oh,
don't
talk about
remember. It was like
awkward
a pass fail
conversations.
thing. But I remember
Termination,
telling the
here to
guy,
go.
yeah, look, I fired 1,000 people already at HEB by the time I was 20 years old. Like, you're not going to say anything to me that I have not heard. And it carries over into this, those a lot of small businesses have not gotten to the point where they've had to fire anybody, had to evaluate, a lot of them do you do every year? Do you do annual evaluations? How do you evaluate your people for development? How do you don't? And you, it becomes ask a question in the correct way. And I call it a dance, but it is very, very delicate dance because you're dealing with a lot of the same personality types. No two people are the same, but in this little era, you're seeing consistency kind of across. So you preempt it. This is going to be an awkward conversation. You're going to have
100%.
to tell me things you don't want to tell other people or that you've
Josh,
been
can
trying to
I
hide.
pause you for a second? Because I have this theory that one of the reasons that anything really related to finance can be awkward is that as kids, we're often taught not to talk about money. Like my
Oh,
daughter and I were talking about
yes.
money the other day, and I said, "You realize this conversation is just for us. This isn't for any of your friends. We can talk about this, but this doesn't go any further."
Yeah.
And there's a lot of shame and unease talking about money, our own money, other people's money.
Mhm.
And so I think there's already like at a heightened level of angst when we go into any of these conversations. Then when you start talking about like, oh, what really are your goals? Well, maybe I'm busy being busy. And that's why I
Yeah.
haven't really sat down and thought about my goals.
And that's it. I know that, but you got to get over. what they're telling themselves, right? That's a human nature thing. I do that to myself. Everybody does. And what you just mentioned, I don't want to get off on this is not a conspiracy theory podcast, but you go back to how we were brought up as children across America, whether it was Texas or California or New York. That's as wide across America as we can get. And consistently, you did not ask your parents how much money they made, and you did not ask adults. That's right. Like some of those things that are that consistent, you wonder
Totally taboo.
where'd that come from? And there's things that I'm starting that we've learned now that look, these came down so that people didn't ask how much other people were making, so that corporations didn't have to pay more. And now that you're in this space, even I try and tell this to different fractionals that I meet in the network, formally and informally. Hey, you have to share information. I get that everybody wants to hold this close, but now if you're accepted into this space, it's okay to tell people how much you're charging because that's helping all of us. Example, you want to go back to sports? There's a reason that those players and their contracts are always printed, and they're the only people in the world that that is done for, right? We don't, they're not going to go show, hey, I hired a new analyst this week at $150,000. Why not? Right? Or you see articles all the time of major companies recruiting people over. You never see the compensation. Why?
So
Yeah,
why? Because it's aspirational? What
that's
is the
it.
why?
That's exactly what it's for. You want people, right, with buzz and knowing what those amounts are. The players do, because the more now they can build isn't free information. Inside a corporate, nobody wants that, right? Like they don't want oh, you want to talk about an awkward conversation? Try when I like at Exxon getting moved. Exxon does this all the time where they'll move you to a business line and it'll be where they'll put you in a spot and the supervisor's a newer engineer. So I've at the company 15 years. This person's been there for 2 years. First supervisor, first job ever, first supervisor role. And we're going to go in and talk about performance and then raises. And they look at theirs and they're like, oh my God, I make half as much as you do. Like, and that's not, and then they're angry. And then you're like, how's like, all right, that's not my fault. Like, and this happens a lot.
It does.
That is the thing that you want to avoid. That kind of corporate structure, and don't be jealous. If you make $500 an hour and I make one, I am happy for you. And that goes back to, okay, now these awkward conversations we're filtering out because the whole point is that we want to work with the people that fit us. We want to work with who we're going to be successful with. And you can identify these things through these questions, or you can avoid them. And yeah, you could probably get that. But is it going to be work that you want to do? Is it going to work out? But probably not. And if you get comfortable asking awkward questions, you set the stage for people who can either take that step up and do it themselves, or they want to avoid it. And if they want to avoid it, there's no way I can be successful with them. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of ways anybody can. It's
One
you
of my
ask
favorite
help
leadership
because
quotes
you
is
need it.
about
Yeah,
getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Like
get
that's your
comfortable
path
being
to leadership.
uncomfortable.
Whether we're
With
talking about
finance,
performance and why you're not making the cut and how you can get better, whether we're talking about values alignment and what we're seeing that maybe you don't have
absolutely.
self-awareness around, or it's about money. And I think you said something I want to backtrack a little bit because this professional jealousy, especially when it comes to money, is toxic. It's
Oh,
at every level. I'm working with a client who's onboarding their first executive assistant. Small company,
hmm,
great team, awesome leaders. And as they onboard this executive assistant, they've never had one. They're learning how to use her, but also and benefit from her. Also, they said, "Gosh, she'd be really great if she could cross train in the office." So we have some relief valve if somebody's out or somebody gets hurt, something. So she's cross training. Well, somehow she accidentally lets it slip how much she makes. Well, guess what? She makes more than the office girls. She's new here, but she can do a lot of things they don't know or particularly care. And it really like takes me back to primary school. And my mom's mantra was like, you can't protect yourself from someone who's envious. There is nothing you can do to protect yourself from someone who's jealous. And I've carried that with me because there's nothing I can do. And the
Mhm.
fact that she just made a mistake. She's young. She didn't think about it. And she probably didn't think about the discrepancy. And
Oh,
so now they're trying to figure out, they're scrambling to figure out how to alleviate this. I'm like, you're not going to alleviate this. This is an
yeah.
issue. And so it's that little piece. And it also happens with professional capacity too, right? But the money piece is
Oh, well,
gut
you
wrenching
want to
money.
talk? It's like I have a great example of that. I opened my mouth because I'd never made money before. I mean, this is first right out of the gate with Exxon, and I didn't know about taxes. And this goes back to one of the things I really want to do down the road. I'd love to do, but who do you ask, right? So I see the tax line, and this is comes to October, November. You hit the threshold for the Social Security withdrawal, and they moved that. Nobody talks about it, but they've moved that up almost at twice inflation every year since 2011. By the way, which nobody wants to talk about, but you stop paying in. Well, my check was more, and I do it, and I was looking, I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is zero. I was like, why would they do that? And I just went to another accountant who had been there for 30 years because you've seen everything. I didn't show them. I just asked, hey, what happens with this line if who do I call? And they were like, oh, well, that's the such and such. Once you hit a threshold, and another office person heard and whipped her head around and she said, you better not have hit that threshold. She'd been there 30. They hadn't. It never occurred to me. I had no idea. But and that did not go well. I mean, she raised the whole thing to see. I'm just asking a question if there's a mistake, and I don't know, even though I'm brand new, I don't know who to ask. This is first
You know what? I
year.
don't know.
I don't know what I don't know. That's what I don't like. People like to should have an outlet, and I want to be that person that can help guide. And from this angle, there should be a class at most universities that is really all about and call it I want to call it a business development, but it's really a real world working class for a lot of these conversations we're talking about. You guys got to understand that taxes are coming. You got to understand you go buy a house, X, Y, and Z are coming. If you do not play their game, they're going to hammer you. If you don't go in with the home that you own and fight back and push back against the appraisal that came right after you bought it, you're going to pay about $100,000 more over the life of that loan for taxes and everything else. It is an economical almost imperative now in the world we live in. Every corporation that is selling something expects you to fight like you better go find the coupon. You better go, yeah, you better go do all of this. We expect you to fight back. That's why we've set it up this way. And it's not fair and it's not right. But if you don't pay attention to it as a small business, it's gonna hurt you. That's an awkward conversation to have. Hey, with a bunch of young people, do you understand that taxes, that is 30%? If you go down this path, you better hit here. If you borrow $200,000 for an education, you better make more than 150 a year, or you are literally giving money away for the rest of your life. That's just, like it's just there are thresholds and no one talks about them. No one understands that $150,000 is not enough anymore. And I know that everybody is going to balk at that, but somebody has to speak up. You cannot expect to hire people at $30,000 a year and get $120,000 worth of value. You can if they work 4 hours a week. You will not get 40 hours a week. And that is another big part of this that a lot of small businesses, they've been here for 40 years and this has always worked. And that workforce is different. Their motivations are different.
Their
The
expectations are massively different in terms of what
massively.
they'll get out of work, how they'll be trained, what opportunities they'll come upon, why work matters at all. We're not trading days for dollars with younger
Yeah.
generations. And I actually want to
Yep.
go, I'm going to keep doing this to you because you make
No,
really
keep
good
going.
points and I want to backtrack on them. So I'm a school board member in our little farming town. And one of my absolute mantras is we never do enough financial education or interpersonal communication because those are the things, no matter how smart our kids are, that could
Mhm.
tank them even if they've made a lot of other really good choices. So one of the things we do at our school district, and the local credit union runs it, it's called
Yeah.
Bite of Reality. And
Um,
the kids show up and they get assigned a job, a salary, a family unit, or single, whatever like the lottery is. And then they have
yes.
a budget. And then they go around to all these tables and people are trying to upsell them on nicer cars, vacations,
Yes.
apartments and houses, and a boat, all these things. And they get to the end, they're like, oh my God, I have $80,000 worth of credit card debt and it's carrying a 30%
Yeah.
interest rate. And it just is this like, oh my God moment for them. And some of them figure out pretty quickly how to play the game. But it's this amazing, like, shake their shoulders
That is
of
brilliant.
this
That needs
is
to be
what
shared more.
life. It's
That is,
awesome.
I taught junior achievement through Exxon, and I was very fortunate. I got to teach a couple of the classes, but it was always like, it was it was like a carpet map, and I got to show them how businesses work. I mean, it was but these are second graders, and I was so lucky I got to do it. They let me do it for Clayton's little class when he was in the second grade, and he was so, but going through there, like these are young kids. They understand because they've heard a lot of them have parents that are in it, and you can tell which parents are small business owners. The kids get it, but there's gaps, right? Like that, if you could have started at that age and had a little program so that every year they just did one project, very much like ag and for the 4-H clubs. I think that that is something that is missing across the board. And you see that right now. It's a painful transition point our economy worldwide is in. It is a painful transition point for HR. The difference between a recruit and a new hire and what they bring to the table before a certain age and after a certain age. That is not age discrimination. It is just a line that has
Life
become
experience.
evident. I'm going to use my Exxon's example. Darren Woods wants to tout right now. They've gone from 85,000 to 61,000 employees since 2020 and COVID. And that is their motivating force behind all these earnings and hey, we're streamlined, we're going forward. I don't know. I don't know that that is 100% true. I think that a lot of those shorter service engineers were very much more self-aware than I was, and we're like, no, we're not doing this after 5 years. No. This is not the way the world works anymore. And their recruiting process, because it is still antiquated and focused like it was, for the last 50 years, they're not replacing those people. And you don't just create efficiency processes overnight. You are filling gaps right now as you go along, and it just is a delayed impact. You will see where they can't fill. I don't think you cannot go into an ExxonMobil interview with your parents. And most young people today are going in an interview. And that is that in itself, you have to be prepared for that as a small business owner. And let's be honest, most of them aren't. They're just, it's gonna, it's, we're going to LinkedIn and trying, you're not getting hired through LinkedIn. You're going and trying in the corporate world to get hired and it's not going well. Well, now we're back to, all right, it's really a fractional and a referral type of hiring economy we're in.
Environment. Yeah.
And you have to
Especially as we have more
know and be
candidates on the
honest.
market, from what I'm seeing. There's so
Yeah.
many more candidates on the market that these HR managers are so overwhelmed and they don't even know.
How do you
They're
know?
just going cross-eyed looking at resumes, which they don't really believe in the first place. And
Oh, that's
so
100%.
those relationships to say, I know somebody who might be really good. Okay, great, send them my way. I'd love to talk to
That's what
them.
I mean. You got to ask and figure out, like, I got to skip all this. I'm going to ask these three questions. Either A, you don't want to answer them, B, you don't like answering them, or you give the wrong answers. All three of those help me because I don't want to work with you. The people that do, that's it. And that's where you really want to get to, but not a whole lot of people are comfortable doing that. I am. I have hired and fired 1,000 people between HEB and ExxonMobil. There is not much at this point, between being a father, working at HEB and Exxon, you're not going to get much past me. Like I'm going to get to the root of it. And you're going to, in those 3 to 5 questions, you're going to define all the work I need to do for you. And now I can tell you a program. Look, you need to do this, this, and this. You're going to eliminate over time all these expenses. And I'm going to be honest, the hiring process for one new hire at ExxonMobil is calculated to cost $130,000. That same new hire at HEB is somewhere around 12. Different job roles have extraordinarily expensive costs because it's not just how much it costs to recruit that person. Now you've lost time, you've lost knowledge, and now you've opened yourself up to risk. And that's where just be not be there's no way for a small business to know that something like that is coming in. They are used to a CFO or an accounting person coming in and saying, hey, real strict, with glasses and a calculator. We need to look at this spreadsheet and this number tells us this. No, that's not what this is. This is learning how to ask the questions. Have you thought of this, or this? Because your numbers already told me the answer. And, or your numbers might reflect this now let me show you what efficiencies you can capture. I love to tell
I,
people like those.
I wonder,
Yeah.
I wonder about some of the awkwardness of conversations you're having with clients. If some of it is shame-based,
And
if
it's
you're
all of
asking
them.
questions that they're kind of horrified, no one's been asking them, they don't know the answers to, they're feeling caught flat-footed, and your job is just helping them know it's okay, it's okay if you don't know the answer. We'll get to it
Almost,
together.
yes. Because look, you've been trained or programmed or whatever we've been for 100 years that not to be scared of this and to not ever let this information out and not to trust anybody. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm just asking you to answer questions that you're not. And once you do it, it's oddly like a therapy session. It is, all right, I said it out loud. Now I can tell you that ain't a big deal. Everybody does that. I want you to pay me, obviously, to help you. But now I'm a phone call away. Now you don't have to sit and know, man, I know I don't know enough about this. Should I go spend? And it eats us alive. And I noticed that working, and I will say that is one of the bigger things that I learned in this entire adventure of life is that what goes on in those little negative things in our mind, they slowly eat away at us. They eat away at our energy. They eat away at our ability to see, right? And disseminate, right? Not only just right and wrong, but like those pathways that we need to get to, because it just creates roadblocks. And they don't need to be there because you're worried about something that you don't need to be worried about. Somewhere along the line, and it was more than likely we're going to blame this on Rockefeller, just like everything else that everybody wants to do. He was like, nope, we need to train all these people not to talk about money so that they never know what each other's paid. And that's just not true. If you're a fractional, have that conversation and help that other fractional out and be happy that they're making money. I am going to be ecstatic if anything that I shared will help someone else, because at the end of what are you going to do with it, right? What do you really, that's where I'm avoiding. That jealousy, what we started with, that whole point at the beginning, that jealousy, that unnecessary competitive thing. Now, my competitive nature comes out and I want to be a partner with somebody. And
I
if
want my clients to win.
I have to meet that or exceed that in my area of expertise. If I'm working with a startup company and I will go unpaid because I love their work ethic. I love what they're trying to do. And it raises and has raised like my level. I've jumped into a bunch of different areas I don't have expertise in because I want to be better so that I can anticipate that. That's a motivator that's value to me. And I find that just like we talked, when you're around your people, it gravitates. And that's what I want at the end of the day. I want those people that need help to know that just to come here. And whether I can do it myself, maybe, but for sure I can point you in the right direction and get you solved. And it all goes back to picking the right people. Everything we say, everything we do, we're going to need somebody for if we're going to be successful. And you got to find the right ones.
So I'm going to go back to a word you said that totally keyed me into exactly where you're headed, which is so much of what you and I do, there's a therapy component to it, right? There's a
Oh,
financial element, the shame. Then you get the right people. Well, I was talking with a client yesterday who is an operations manager beneath an owner who's managing two of the owner's children. And
Oh
she
yeah.
said, they're not the right people to carry this to the next generation. And I took a look at their PIs, their predictive index assessments, and I could see it immediately. I said, I agree, and they don't have it in them. So no matter how much you mentor and support them, the conversation we really need to have with the parents is, do these kids belong in the owner's box? They're still young. They have so much opportunity to go do something else they can thrive in. But right now, what they're trying to be is exactly like their dad from a behavioral perspective. But
That's
that's
funny.
not who they are. So they're feeling this shame of, I'm in the wrong seat, but I don't want anyone to know that because I'm going to let them down. Because no one wants to be the generation who loses it, right? Who fails. And
That's
so,
it.
like, this shame around not knowing the financials or not having the right people, there's so much should that we put on ourselves. I should have known this. I should be up on it. How could you possibly know all these things? And
That's
also,
oh, that's it. That's it.
then
That's
there's
the
the
key.
pain factor of like, but what if I let this person down? If it's an accounting person who's been with me for 25 years, we've been through some hard times, they've been steady, and we love them like family, or maybe they are family. And
A
then
lot of
if
times.
we acknowledge that they're in the wrong seats, are we hurting them by keeping them? Are we hurting them by freeing them up? And in my experience, and I will speak from personal experience, my husband and I both left my family business because we weren't in the right seats and the dynamic was not right for us to thrive. I looked at my husband maybe a month or two ago and I was like, best thing we ever did was to walk away. Great relationships with my family, stronger than they've ever been. Great professional decisions, great financial decisions, but it was gut wrenching in the
Uh-huh.
moments, the years of moments that it took to really extract ourselves and do it with grace and humility and respect. But it didn't make it wrong. Like we weren't right there and we had to figure out a way out. And so the people and the finances, oh my gosh, so much therapy involved.
You just hit on a ton of topics. Number one, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what we're talking about. That's a hard decision. And every time that you get to something like that, two people can be on the same page, but you have to admit there is zero chance that we know for sure. And the only way that we're even going to get close is if we do these things. And these things are go out and test this against the right people. Almost always, what you find is I want to say this in the correct kind of way.
Okay.
That
Oh, are you
awkward,
gonna
that
be PC
shame,
on
that
me?
therapy it's almost like it surprises people. And it's a good surprise, but it goes back to, all right, what is my job as a leader in either of my family or of an organization or a group? Your job as a supervisor or leader is to remove obstacles from people doing their best, being the best that
100%.
they can do. And if you take that angle and that approach, oh, okay, it becomes to where I have a responsibility. And yes, there's an awkward part of this. I need to go find the right solution, whether that's me. And so it goes back to, all right, I have to admit what I'm not good at. And when you walk in, you ask somebody what their goals are. That's the first thing that, oh, wow, I've never thought about that. A lot of people, I've never looked at what I'm really good at or admitted to myself or others what I'm not good at. And it's impossible for anybody to be great at everything. If you start from that, those are the things I tell a lot of times to my sons too. Anybody that tells you they know everything, all you know for sure is that person doesn't. Everything else is still on the table. You don't want to ever look at yourself and evaluate and say, I didn't look and figure every different angle out. I love that you said that it was a therapy session. One of the examples and where I figured this out, onboarding is just a part of finance and accounting. You have to you have to go and manage all the new people. So I had a program where
I feel
I
like, hold
came
on, we have to put a pin in this. Onboarding is an extension of the accounting function. This is going to
it has
rock
to
some
be.
people's
It
worlds,
has to
Josh.
be. It has to be. Whether it was a new engineer that came into the role and had been there forever, or with the company, or whether it was a completely outside new hire, or it was the plant manager and the executives that would come in, I would go on my own and schedule a meeting with them. And I'd make a face to face after I sent the email because they wouldn't know me. And I'd say, hey, look, I sent you an email. I'm trying to help you. I'm gonna do this onboarding with you to show you this entire stewardship process here. and explain the history before you walk into a meeting so that you don't get ambushed. And that's the way I would approach it so that they would, if I did not, no matter what program was out there or how much was written, they would wait and they'd go into the meeting, meeting after meeting, and it would be ineffective and they'd be quiet and they wouldn't use it. And I watched as more than one refinery manager and multiple engineers rotated through. And I watched that whole thing erase. And then I kept track of it. And it's something as simple as I know you don't like, I'm going to jump and know that you don't respect this. It's finance and accounting. You think it's not important. You waited till the last minute and you can get into these meetings and say, it ain't my fault. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to show you if you do these three things, if you look at these key areas and you'll do that before you walk in, everything will. And it created on a 1.5 billion yearly maintenance budget. They would consistently miss at the end of the year what they tell by $35 million, right? We're talking like losing whole groups, having a fire, like the whole 9 yards. People yelling at each other, meetings. Within 6 months of rolling out this program, just onboarding new people and sitting with them, we hit for 3 years in a row at 99.99%. We were like $200,000 off one year. And that is incredible when you're talking about thousands of entries, all that accounting getting booked, all those accruals being turned in and accounted for, and all of it working with your third parties. That is not, it all came from something simple. I just went and asked the right questions. Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? No? Then you need to do this, this, and this to be successful. Oh, thanks. Done. I'll do it every month. I don't know what it is. It's little things. Yeah.
This is probably my favorite part of working in the trades because the
Yeah.
trades value their own expertise, the expertise of their employees. They know what they're good at. And it's easier for them to give themselves grades about what they're not
That's it.
experts in and ask for
Yes.
help. And I'm thinking, I was just making some notes, which is why I was muted when I started trying to talk. I was making some notes because we need to come to a close, but I was thinking about some of the things I'm really taking away that I hope people will take away from our conversation. So I'm going to rattle these off and you tell me what I missed. Yeah?
Okay, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. So one that I loved that you brought up was acknowledging the awkwardness, starting the conversation with, hey, we need to have a hard conversation, an awkward
That's it.
conversation, and then just go for it
And
because it
release
sets
ours.
the stage for people to go, oh God, okay. And here we go.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
The next thing I thought was really valuable, and so many of our listeners are parents. And so starting with the youngest people in your life, whether you're a parent or not, maybe you're a supervisor and you have people, this is their first job in high school, in college, or after, and help them have awkward conversations about money. There's a really good book called The
Yes.
Opposite of Spoiled that is amazing. And one of the exercises they do is they have a parent bring home their paycheck in $1 bills. And they say, this is
Yes.
what goes to the power bill. This is what goes to our mortgage. This is what goes to a car payment. And this is what's left over for food, fun, vacation, etc. And the kids go, oh, wow. It's so physical for them to visualize. So that's one of my favorite money books. Third was where people issues meet financial issues is really the maximum awkwardness. So
Absolutely.
giving yourself permission to enter the danger and not avoid those because they seem like a black, scary box is really one of the things that you and I are here for. Don't let fear and shame stand in the way. Seek help when you need it because our goal, at least you and I have had lots of conversations, our goal is 10x ROI. The time
Yep.
you spend with us, the money you spend with us should really be a 10x multiplier of value in your life, in your business, in your energy capacity. And then I think last, what I have here is just be brutally honest with yourself about the reality of the
Yes.
situation. If you aren't fearing judgment, repercussions, just be honest and clear-eyed. And if we can start there, Josh, people like you and I are so much better equipped to help and help fast than if we're holding on to people or outdated financial models in our head or expectations. We can get way further faster. So,
Absolutely.
okay, what did I miss in terms of what you took away from this
Oh
conversation?
no, I think you summed that up much better than I would have. And really that last one that's where you start because and that's what I mean by you want somebody that wants you there. I need to work with somebody that wants me there. Otherwise, it's not going to work because you have to sit down and no matter how or where you think you are or other people are, that honesty is a very, very hard thing for all of us to do. It comes a lot of times there is a cost, right? We have gone through something either traumatic or very difficult to get to that point. And I want to skip all that, right? Like there is no reason for me or no reason for you to even remotely be afraid of anything I'm going to say because everything I'm going to say is taken, it is meant to take all the power out of it, right? Say it out loud that you got this. Say it out loud that you need help with this. Say that you know you have a problem that you've been ignoring. Oh man, I can't tell you how many people know they have a problem in that little thing where they just like hide it. Like they're hiding it away. They're like, yeah, we've known about this for 2.5 years. What? Like what? So it is those, be brutally honest, acknowledge the awkwardness. I love what you said about teaching your kids. I I have a finance degree. I am a math nerd. I evaluate every 15 minutes of my life in everything so that resources are allocated. Oh, groceries. I look at the price for everything in groceries. Okay, people like, and then my son, we're going to buy his first car, and his words, Dad, I don't really know what finance is and what do you mean financing a car? And I mean, I almost cried. I had to go outside. I was like, dude, honestly, buddy, I feel like a parenting failure that you don't know. He's like, would you just relax, Dad? He's like, I just
All the
teach me.
success that they asked.
Now, the other side of that is he's 16, and I should have been pumped that he asked because every other kid, and that's where being brutally honest, the fact that the kid asked is he's ahead because at least he knew enough. I asked his other friends after that, and I went around. I was like, "Hey, how'd your parents get your car? What's your note, and what's the insurance?" They didn't understand because their parents were just did it, and they just came home, and that feels great. That feels great as a parent. Hey, put the big red bow on the car, and look what I could do for my kid. It feels great as an executive, as a person work. Hey, put the big bow on some package or something and say, "Hey, look, this I did this for you." That sounds great. No, I'm going to be here for you every day. That's value, right? I'm going to teach you how to go get this stuff for yourself so that in the future you avoid getting hammered with 26% interest and rising insurance costs on a car that you don't have any business owning. And it's the same thing for small businesses, right? Like so much of this goes all the way back to that's just the way that people have always thought of it. And you're having to change those mindsets and
Absolutely.
those norms, those
Yeah.
existing norms around fractionals, around finance and accounting, around you as a
People,
person, right?
you,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. So it all kind of goes into it. And I know we're up against our time. This was a great conversation that
Thank
you could
you.
go a lot of different angles off of.
We
And
could.
hopefully anybody that's seen this, if anybody just let me just call and ask. A lot of people, if you want to get down it, don't be afraid to ask. I think I wasted way too much of my life just especially at Exxon being afraid to ask. And now I can't shut up and I'm not going to. Like I'm just going to keep going. Yeah.
Okay, I have one final thought on this
Yeah.
topic. I think where the work we do differs from therapy is that you and I are working with clients to look forward rather than backwards. So much of
Yes.
therapy is like, let's unpack all this shit from your childhood
Uh,
and your
I just want to
trauma.
know where
Like,
you're
I
at.
don't think it's not that I don't care about that. And I do think we need to acknowledge it because that's part of what helps us move forward. But we're
Hmm.
so focused on what's next, what's better, how we can just be where we are and then just go get better. And
Hmm.
that's maybe the biggest difference.
I think it is one of those very powerful value added and competitive advantages that you have and that I have. And I think and others in my net, everything is positive because it's just a waste of time to draw blame or to be negative. It is just about identifying opportunities. There is nothing that you've done wrong. There is only opportunities I can point out and prove my value to you because I want to find the right people to help. When I'm done, I want to look around and I want to list off the people that I can and have helped. And I do not want those to be some big publicly traded company. That'd be awesome if one or two of them went that way. But, like that's what I want to look back on. And that's what I want other people to say about me and what I did. Um, it's that thinking of when you're at the end and what that value and who you are, what you left on this, what imprint you left behind. That's what I want. Like that's, you helped somebody that's been in business for 40 years, that's been, stressed out
Right.
and think about that impact to their kid. Because I've seen this from my side. My great grandfather losing everything destroyed my whole family. And there was nothing he was ever going to be able to do about it. You go to family events after that, and those are different. And before his whole work company came, and I ran into people that worked for him for 30 years when I was like almost going into college and high school and stopped and took the time to talk. Those things matter, right? And that's what I want. That's going to be fun one day, that if nothing else, I just came in and showed everybody there's a much better way and this is fine. Like, don't worry about this, right? Like, I got all the answers. Just give me a second. Tell me, let me figure out what the questions are here and we'll be fine. That's it.
So you said something that I think is the perfect end to this discussion, which is you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, you
Did the
did.
best you
Yeah,
knew with the information you had at the time,
absolutely.
and that's it. And so give yourself some grace. Ask for help when you need it. Josh, if you started down this path, but I either cut you off or you didn't go all the way there. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Iron Gate Financial Services, I have a great website up, and that's the same. I left my email really long by accident. So you got to just type it out. Reach out on my website. I have a scheduler up there. Reach out through Fractionals United if you're a part of that network and working with anybody. I don't have really how else. You can reach out through mailing. You can
LinkedIn?
reach out through anyone that's connected to Texas A&M, really. And more than likely, they'll find me on LinkedIn. I have a business thing. So go to Texas A&M link, and you'll probably get linked to me shortly after. But I have a LinkedIn business page. I have a website, those traditional things. And I have a lot of information out there. But take 30 minutes, get on the scheduler, send me an email. Even if you just send me an email, I'll respond. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take the time. So
Great.
I love answering questions. I love talking to new people. And I like helping. So I hope I can do all three. Thank you so
Well,
much for this. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you. I hope
Thank you.
you will join us for a future episode of You Got People Problems.
I would
If
love
you
to.
want to reach out to me personally, Activate Human Capital Group is my company. ActivateHCG.com is our website. I love these conversations. I especially love family businesses. I love the trades. And I, like Josh, impact is really what I thrive on. So thank
That's
you for
it.
joining us today and hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network, because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.